So I'm here in Sydney today with Asheesh Mehra from Infosys, who has just joined us on the G8 2010 Australasian chapter. First time we've seen Infosys on the G8 here in Sydney, and some really interesting points raised that I really wanted to pick up with you on today, Asheesh. Firstly, you asked a very direct question by Martin Fahey earlier about whether or not there were opportunities to monetize shared services and whether BPOs saw it that way. And your answer to that was very firmly yes, but you went on to talk about the hub, spoke and edge models. And for those that aren't familiar with the terminology that you're using there, I thought we could expand a bit on exactly what you mean there, and your view on whether there are BPO services willing to acquire shared services onshore.
Great. Pleasure to be here. So thank you for having Infosys. We're proud to be on the G8 panel this year. Two questions in your one question. So I'll address your first question on are BPO service providers looking at monetizing shared services, and like I said earlier, the answer is absolutely yes. And the reasons for that are mainly a few-fold. One, if we look at where BPO began and where it has really transitioned to, customers are looking for BPO service providers to take end-to-end ownership of business processes. And for BPO service providers to be able to do that, we need to make sure that we have that onshore delivery component as well to get a check in the box from a regulatory and compliance perspective. Because in the financial services space especially, there are a number of regulations that you cannot take certain business processes to a nearshore or offshore location. Secondly, it gives the BPO service provider onshore capability to address needs that a customer may have and to also take care of the control aspects that certain customers may have. And thirdly, as I talked about earlier, it's important for customers to have access to certain high-value, high-critical processes onshore, which they do not have if we take those processes offshore. So if I link that to the hub, spoke, and edge model that I talked about, hub is delivering work offshore in India, Mexico, or Thailand. Where we moved from hub to the spoke model is coming closer to a customer site, which is a nearshore model, where you're not really going offshore, you're close by, and you deliver from there. And the edge model is really delivering processes from onshore or within a customer's location. And that goes back to your first question of are BPO service providers willing to monetize shared services centers, and that's how these two link in together so nicely, and the marketplace is moving to more delivery or taking ownership in an edge delivery model rather than a hub delivery model.
I see. And for the benefit of those who might not be familiar with it, including myself, you touched upon a couple of Infosys specific terms, 2.0, 3.0 as examples there. How does that fit into this idea of modelling that you're talking about now, and what's the variation between them?
Sure. So if you look at the BPO industry, it's evolved really over the last 15 years, where way back in 1996, companies went offshore just to focus on labor arbitrage. And that was BPO 1.0, which was a bum on a seat for a lower cost. What I'm calling 2.0 here is where we moved on from there in the early 2000s, and we talked about focusing away from just operational metrics, focusing on business metrics, more of transaction pricing, more of output-based pricing, right, and models. And the 3.0 that I'm talking about right now is where we are looking from 2010 onwards, is where you're bundling technology and business process to provide you a multiplier effect, which is 1 + 1 does not equal 2, equals 3. And that's what 3.0 is all about. It's all about technology and business process wrapped around together in a business platform model to provide you larger impact on your business process, your technology, and your balance sheet than just pure vanilla BPO would do for you.
And you also talked earlier about the idea that you thought we should expect to see more captives utilising BPO experiences in-house themselves. What are you referring to with that? What aspect of BPO delivery are you expecting captives to start bringing inside their own organisations?
So if you really look at what is a captive and what is a third-party delivery model, a captive is where organizations decide to do all processes in-house. They continue to use the same process methodologies, the same quality methodologies, just in a different building, and bundling it all together, right? BP organizations have learned from thousands of processes, and they've kind of brought the learnings to these captive organizations where I feel captives can benefit if they're not comfortable going the third-party route, going offshore or near shore. That experience and the learnings from BP organizations can be brought into shared services centers or onshore captive delivery centers and used to make sure that processes are taken to the next level. So it is basically what I'd like to call a hybrid model, where you don't disturb the apple cart, but at the same time you get the same benefits that you could possibly get by going with a third party.
Sure. And just quickly, if I can ask one last question of you. You made a very bold statement about the cost play, which there was an awful lot of debate about today on the stage. Your statement simply was, if it's all about cost, absolutely go down the BPO route. That would beg the question from an audience perspective of, what if it isn't purely about cost? Where does that then fit in for you if you're considering outsourcing, but you've got wider drivers as well?
Sure. So it I think did create some controversy out there. But the question was all around cost. And that's why the statement, if it's cost, look no further, just go down the BPO path. However, so I'd like to divide that into 3 Ps, what I'd like to call, BPO service providers really need to understand, the pain, the purpose of what the customer is looking for, and then provide a plan for them. And if the pain and purpose is cost, it's BPO. If the pain and purpose are other drivers like quality, skills, productivity, process improvement, re-engineering, my answer is the same, still go down the path of BPO. Because BPO organizations like ours have delivered processes not only to one customer, but across multiple geographies, multiple customers, and thousands of processes. And those learnings are priceless. So I would strongly recommend organizations to focus on their core business. And if their core business, for example, is banking, focus on developing new products for your end customer, focus on customer satisfaction, focus on shorter time to market. Let a BPO service provider worry about all your back office functions, because that's not going to provide value to your shareholders. Focusing on your market and customers is going to provide value to your shareholders.
There you go. We heard it here first. Pain, purpose and provide. Thank you so much, Asheesh, for joining us here today. We hope and look forward to seeing you on future G8s.
Pleasure being here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.